Today marked a new low in the deranged attempt by Britain-hating leftists to paint this country as anything other than a world leader in tackling carbon emissions, despite the deranged march to net zero making us poorer and colder. Greenpeace, the international environmental charity that has quite clearly lost its way in recent years, thought it fit to target the private family home of a British Prime Minister for the crime of approving new oil and gas licences. The rabble-rousers arrived at Rishi Sunak's Yorkshire property, where he lives with his young children and wife, at around 6:30 a.m, before swiftly scaling the roof and burying the house in a black sheet. Dim-witted campaigners held a banner below, inanely reading, "Oil profits or our future." Look.
I'm a volunteer climber with Greenpeace, and I'm on the roof of the Prime Minister's house. We're all here because Rishi Sunak has opened the door for a new drilling frenzy in the North Sea, while large parts of our world are literally on fire. This will be a disaster for the climate. It won't lower your energy bills, it's not going to boost our energy security. The only people that are going to profit from this at all are the big oil companies. So Rishi needs to pick a side. Oil profits or our future on a habitable planet.
A man's home is his castle, and to know strangers have been trampling over your roof, invading your personal space, and using your family's refuge for a PR stunt will leave any father sick to the stomach. Try this outrageous behaviour in America and see what happens. Better yet, why don't these brainless attention seekers give President Xi's home a crack in China, one of the world's biggest polluters? They don't, and they won't, because they're cowards. So how would they feel if the shoe was on the other foot? Well, you don't have to wait long for the answer to that, because I sent my producer, Ben Leo, down to Greenpeace's London headquarters this afternoon to get answers from their £90,000 a year directors, Ariba Hamid and Will McCallum. Now, quite clearly, here at GB News, we'd never break into properties like Greenpeace goons do. So this is what happened when Ben was surprisingly invited inside by the receptionist.
Can you tell them we just want to know why they think it's acceptable to invade a Prime Minister's private home? I'm Ben from GB News.
GB News, thank you.
Is Will or Ariba here? Not really. I'm looking for Will or Ariba or whoever's idea that was to invade Rishi Sunak's house. Hello, Ariba. How are you doing? Thanks for having us. Was that your idea to invade
you weren't
Rishi?
invited, first of all.
We weren't invited?
No, you
weren't. Oh, how ironic. Were you invited to Rishi Sunak's house this morning?
He's the Prime Minister of the country.
I'm just going to make myself a cup of tea, if that's all right.
The irony there of Greenpeace director Ariba Hamid saying Ben wasn't invited into their private offices would be hilarious, if not so astonishing. And he was, by the way. After making a cuppa and quizzing their staff, Ben asked Hamid about the morality of invading a father's family home, and her justification, I think, was equally as stunning.
Paid $100 a year for ideas like that. Are you going to apologise for what you've done today?
What should I apologise for?
For turning up at not just the Prime Minister's house, a private man's home where he lives with his family. Doesn't matter.
Speak,
does it?
I will answer your
Speak.
question. Yeah.
Defend it.
Yeah, it was a peaceful protest, and the Prime Minister has allowed hundreds of new oil and gas licences.
So you think it's justified turning up to a man's private home where he lives with his family because he's approved oil and gas licences?
He wasn't there. That was a matter of national news. We checked before going. We made sure there was nobody there. It was planned with utmost care, with care for security. He wasn't there. We knocked on the door. First, there was no answer.
You knocked on the door, so he jumped on his roof. Is that right?
We knocked on the door to identify who we were.
Are you going to apologise?
No, I'm not going to apologise. We held him to account for a decision that he has backed, which is a disastrous decision.
Hamid's co-director Will McCallum then joined the party, admitting Britain was responsible for only around 1% of global carbon emissions and accepting we've slashed carbon output by a staggering 40% in recent decades.
You know what percent of global emissions the UK is responsible for? You must do. You're paid 100k a year, so you must know.
I mean, it's around 1%, 2%.
All right, okay. So why aren't you going to China, to Xi Jinping's palace, and doing
We have
this?
an enormous campaigning organisation in China. Greenpeace are really present in China. We do tons of work there. Do some research.
Aren't you a bunch of hypocrites? Is that right? Is that what's going on there?
Why? What's happened now?
Yeah, what's hypocritical?
Why would that come up?
Because you're choosing to make a point here in the UK that somehow this country is not doing its fair share to reduce emissions.
News was really into painting the UK as a global leader. The UK has a massive...
It is on carbon emissions.
It's a massive financial...
40% reduction over the past 2 decades that you guys think is acceptable.
And we
you
have
guys
lost
think it's
that.
acceptable to invade a private man's family home, which is disgusting.
Which was empty.
As with all out-of-control activists, Greenpeace clearly didn't like it when we turned the tables on their behaviour. I think it's about time these privately educated trust fund baby Islington dwellers return to tackling serious environmental problems like plastics in our oceans and polluted waterways, instead of trying to copy those brain-dead juveniles at Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion.